Graphically, Global Domination is about average for its genre. Map-based Conquest games don't need to have great graphics to please their players. The gameplay is designed to do that. The animated intro, while a nice touch, is not nearly impressive enough to justify the hard drive space it takes up, even though it doesn't take up much. In a world where games uncompress to become a 40 megabyte monstrosity, every little byte counts. Impressions hasn't impressed me too much with most of their previous offerings. Global Domination is a step in the right direction, but still has serious shortcomings. The conquer the world territory by territory routine has gone through several incarnations before. If Impressions really wishes to make a mark with their games, I suggest they start conjuring up new ideas instead of rehashing old ones. The caption on Global Domination's box hails it as the ultimate multiplayer conquest simulation. That's some pretty heavy rhetoric to live up to. Of course, the back of the box also says you can play against Adolf Hitler, which is flat out wrong. Although my favorite historical punching bag only appears on the back panel, the game will let you play against a caveman. He may not be as ugly as Hitler, but he drools and talks funny, so I consider him a reasonable substitute. Anyone familiar with Impressions' other games will feel right at home with this menu, and even those who've never used an Impressions game before shouldn't be too confused. Although this menu is simple and easy to use, it's also, in my opinion, just plain ugly. I've seen the same screen in too many other Impressions games. I like it when game publishers make their games look unique, not uniform. Clicking on the geography icon in the toolbar brings you this map display. Here, the player can see all the cities of the world, their sizes, and all sea routes. This screen can be of great help in the beginning of the game when all the players are scrambling around trying to grab up as many lucrative large cities as possible. As good an idea as this is, it would have been even more useful if this view could be superimposed over the map showing the global territories and owners. The logistics screen is one of the most important sections of the game. It is here that you keep track of and spend your income. Budgets for land movement and fleet construction must be created and altered as you start making more money. In reduced complexity and full complexity games, a good intelligence budget will give you some useful information about your worthy adversaries. From this screen, you also modify and build armies. Do the 6 army icons along the bottom of the screen seem a little similar to you? Zoom in for a close-up shot of the world map. From this level, you can see who owns what size city a territory has, and where the armies are. The brown territories are neutral and defenseless, and it's only a matter of time, and usually not very much of it, before they're swallowed whole by power-hungry megalomaniacs. The bullets just above occupied cities represent armies and grow in size as you add military units. This is the screen from which you move your armies around and attack your friendly neighbors. Mr. Rogers, you ain't. This is the main view of the planet. From this screen, you can see the individual territories to fight over. Each player has a color code which shows territories' owners, with orange territories being fought over and purple areas indicating non-productive revolution. On the right side of the screen is the icon bar, which allows access to different screens and views. This is by far the best interface I've seen on an Impressions game. If a player is stupid enough to leave a territory totally undefended, said territory can be claimed by anyone who moves an army, no matter how small, into it. While this can be an easy way to expand your empire at the expense of other players, which is after all the whole point of the game, don't expect your neighbors to thank you for it. Even chuckleheads like the caveman are bright enough to fight back against an aggressor. Clicking on one of the 6 identical army icons in the logistics screens brings you this display. Now you can see the exact makeup of the army and modify this to better suit your needs. And here's some more of those patented Impressions ugly, oversized arrow buttons. Trying to put so many of these big buttons into a small space does not exactly make for an elegant interface. I say it's time for a facelift. Although it isn't likely to be the difference between victory and defeat, the history screen can be useful. Just one click from the main menu, the history screen gives a good summary of strength and aggression. The line graph illustrating the number of territories held by each player over the course of the game is about the ugliest graph I've ever seen in a PC game, and that's including ASCII graphics games. The table below it can be a good indication of which of your enemies is the most aggressive. Global Domination is a territorial conquest game. Being nice to people just won't get you very far. Games like this give the player a good chance to be devious, merciless, treacherous, and just plain mean. No wonder they're big sellers. Respect no culture but your own. Genocide is the kindest thing you have to offer your opponents. Diplomacy can be useful, but a tank in the face really helps get your point across. If you insist on fighting out a tactical battle yourself, this screen can be of great help to you. From here, you can get a bird's eye view of the territory being fought over, a key to the different terrain types, and limited information about the two armies. This screen is efficient, clear, and reasonably good looking. It is by far the best thing about tactical battle options. When playing Global Domination, you have the option of fighting out a conquest capture of a territory with this tactical display. It is my advice that you avoid this wondrous experience at all costs. This option slows down the gameplay greatly, and if the battle were at all fun, all its charm would certainly die quickly due to sheer repetition. Your units are supposed to be smart enough to protect each other, but my Red Army wasn't particularly mobile when the computer's forces started rolling up to my door. If you tire of conquering the Earth, you can create a random planet to stomp all over. Generating a world is a fairly CPU-intensive process, but it is fairly interesting to watch. Some of this interest will fade if you play Global Domination on a slower computer, though. On a 386DX, making a new world takes about 4 minutes, which sucks the appeal right out of the process. If you decide to build a custom world, you are presented with this extensive list of interesting options. And look, here's that stunningly beautiful interface that all Impressions gamers know and love. The world builder is a nice touch, but isn't exactly as flexible or interesting to use as those of some other games. Not to mention Warlords 2 by name or anything. To add a little depth to the board game-like play, the player is also expected to keep up diplomatic relations with the competition. In addition to showing how each leader feels about you, you can propose peace and non-aggression with another leader, enter into a pact to mercilessly harass a specific player, or use your intelligence budget to attempt to destabilize another leader, hopefully to the point of insanity. Too bad Adolf couldn't come to the party. He would have been fun to drive nuts. Once you establish an intelligence budget, you must pick who your spies are going to report on. The more money you spend, the more you will learn. Don't feel guilty about doing this, as your enemies will surely do the same to you. If only I could infiltrate the Impression staff and coerce them into designing a new interface. If you can live up to the game's title, you will be rewarded with this picture of your conquering army as your flag is raised over the world. In Conquest games, it isn't the ending awards ceremony that makes it worthwhile. Getting there is most of the fun. Fortunately, Global Domination's map-based play is a fair amount of fun. You won't spend hours deliberating over tactics, but it makes for a pleasant diversion. Just don't expect the ultimate gaming experience.